So I hit heavy the first time I took it, and there was a lot of them. The ones that jumped out was teaching, intercession, and discernment.
Teaching and the prophetic and discernment also. I teach at Heritage High School and I teach English literature and research. And Don teaches at Rockdale County High School, and he also teaches English and works with students who sometimes have difficulties.
Yeah, so when the first time I took a spiritual gifts class, I didn't know really anything about them, and they ran you through it. You filled out a form, and some other people filled out a form about me, and then that one they also ask you about what you're passionate about, what you like, and what I was passionate about was kind of strange, but it was finding somebody that didn't believe they could do any better than they could, and helping them see that they could, which was bringing hope to them about their situation.
At the very beginning of discovering that I loved to teach, the youth minister that I was working with was also, his primary gifting was teaching, and he didn't know me at all, so he gave me lots of opportunities. He didn't sort of just release me into it, but sort of held my hand in it at first. And I really felt like I learned a lot about teaching just by making sure that if I was going to teach Sunday school for that situation, that I also needed to, he wasn't a tyrant about it, but making sure that I was accountable to him. And that was there on Sunday nights too, or, because it was back in the day when you still had Sunday night and Wednesday night.
And then I prayed for a bunch of different things, and I just saw the Lord answering a lot of my prayers. And then I said to myself, well, if this is happening, if I got this gift, I need to be praying a lot. And I need to get after it. If I got my dad said that to a little boy with a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and so anytime I'm around anything that bothers me, that's a prayer request. I have to turn that into a prayer request. If it's an offense to me, that's not for me to be offended at, that's for me to be prayed. So that's a tough road to hoe at some point, because you have to be able to forgive folks if you're going to intercede for them to,
I remember once when I was in YWAM, we were asking the Lord, like, which tribes, the tribes of Israel, did you most relate with or whatever. And the one that really resounded with me, and it was in 1996, I guess, and we were in Sweden, was Issachar, that understood the times and knew what Israel should do. And there was this thing inside of me that just struck, and I thought, that's my tribe. And to me, that's sort of how that's manifest in a way. I feel like he's given me an ability to sometimes look at something and see a little bit down the road. It's not that it's a fearful thing or a thing where I'm freaking out or anything, but just that might not be the best way to go, and then sort of understand possible implications.
I asked my dad one time when I first became a Christian. He was a pastor, and I said, Dad, why did somebody in the church decide that your tithe has to be 10%? Where did the 10% come from? He said, oh, the word tithe means a tenth. I said, thank you. and so he said, it's from the Lord, the word tithe, And so the way we've kind of come at it is, we've all been through it where you don't know if you have it to give, and you don't know if you can give a 10%. And so for a while we didn't tithe in the very beginning, and so I just asked the Lord. I told the Lord one day, I want to tithe. I want to give 10%. But right now, if I cut a 10% check, we're going to be hurting. And so I just felt like the Lord said, give whatever you want to give. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. If it's a bunch, it's a bunch. Give whatever I don't even care. Give whatever you want to give. So I said, all right. So I started giving more. I said, okay, I'll start off with 3%. And then it wasn't long before I was just go ahead and get into 10%. And then after several years of doing that, it's one of those deals where it works out just like everybody says. The Lord totally blesses it. Mm-hmm. And then I decided, okay, I started making these wood stuff in my shop and selling it. And I told the Lord, all right, well, what I'm going to do is 10% of everything in my shop, instead of that being a tithe, I'm going to give that to some missionaries we have, Seth and Melissa. So 10% goes to that. And then I really hate debt after I've been doing the Dave Ramsey thing. So 10% of everything I make out in the shop goes towards the church's debt. Mm-hmm. And it's just a big thing. I really believe that if we moved if we got rid of the church's debt, our budget problems, I don't know if it'd be over, but it would be a huge burden lifted off of it.
It was just like Don said. This is what everybody always says. You can't outgive God. As I began to give, there was this joy and also a relief knowing that you're being obedient to what the Word says to do. It's my church home. It's what we share together, and I love supporting it, making that's our family. You know what I mean? And we all are investing in it together. And He's only asking for 10%. Mm-hmm. He's not. He can ask for so much more, and so we give more because there's joy in that. It feels good. It feels good to know that we're helping create the community.
So what I hope is, whoever's watching this or listening to this, or whoever's not even, that there's something in their life that they don't think is ever going to fix. There's a problem they have that they don't think there's a solution for. They're never going to be good at this. They're never going to own their own house. They're never going to solve the relationship issue with their children. Their son is never going to get off of drugs, whatever it is, but there's hope for that.
Yeah.
There is absolute hope for that. Jesus wants to hit a home run in that situation. He wants to turn the drug addict into the person who knows their own spiritual gifts and has got the gas pushed down hard on it.
Yeah.
And wherever the darkest part of any of our lives are, where there's no hope at all, the Lord wants to turn that. He does. He's done it for people from the beginning of time, and He wants to continue doing it with us.
That I believe that He wants to do such an incredible work in this town of reconciliation between the races, of demonstrations of His beauty and His power, that Jesus Christ would be the most famous thing, the thing that people talk about, the person that people talk about in our county, that our county would be famous for that. And that's what we pray for, that we would be famously in love with Jesus Christ.